Hello everyone, it's Mrs. Parry here. We're doing a language workshop today and it is on figurative language. Some of you will have heard of figurative language before and others it will be something totally new. So listen up and follow the PowerPoint and I'll explain all about figurative language. In a moment I'll pop into your right hand corner and I will talk you through the PowerPoint. Okay, so what is figurative language? It's a guide to some writers' descriptive techniques. So this is about some techniques that writers use to add to the description in their narrative writing, and it's called figurative language. There are quite a few different types of skills or tricks that you can use that are part of figurative language, but today we're only going to be looking at 3 of them. So, what is figurative language? We know the word language just means words, so it's about what figurative language is now. What type of words? Figurative language is when a writer creates images, that's pictures in the reader's mind, or comparisons in the reader's mind, by comparing an object or a situation to something else that it is not. So it's a type of comparison that is created by the words that the writer uses or chooses. This link to another thing helps the reader imagine the image or the feeling of the thing that is trying to be described. So it's creating a link with another thing that it's not that helps the reader build up this idea of the description of what this thing is like. The aim of figurative language is to create a fuller description. These writers' tricks are used primarily in the narrative story writing genre. Okay, today we're going to be looking at 3 different types of figurative language: simile, metaphor, and personification. Let's have a look at the first of these, simile. So what is a simile? A simile sounds a bit like the word similar, doesn't it? Which gives us a bit of a clue as to what a simile is. So a simile is when the writer compares something, an object, a thing, to something else that it is not, using the words like or as. For example, in a sentence, she leapt like a cat over the small stream. So like a cat is the simile. This comparison to a cat and how she leaps brings all of our knowledge about how a cat leaps to the girls leaping. It makes us think that perhaps she's quick and agile, and that she did it easily and with style and grace. So using a simile adds all of that knowledge and understanding that we already have about that other thing to the thing that it is being compared to. And a simile, don't forget, always uses the words like or as. Examples of similes. Let's look at a few more. In a moment, you're going to write these similes down in your book. And what I'd like you to do is next to it, write down, see if you can work out the additional knowledge that is being suggested through the use of the following similes. So when we looked at she leapt like a cat, over the small stream, the additional knowledge that's being suggested through the use of that simile is that she did it quickly and easily, she was agile, and she did it with grace and style. All those things that we know just about from our knowledge about what a cat leaps like. So in your book, in a moment, stop the video, write these sentences in, and then write down the thing that you think it is being suggested about the thing that is suggested by using that particular simile. Okay, I'll read them out, and then in a moment stop the video, write them into your book, and write down the additional suggestion that that creates in the reader's mind. Number one, the voice and thoughts in my head were like whispers, but they kept on whispering. So you've got to write afterwards what that suggests. What were they like? The trees seemed like dancers in the mist, moving and swaying to a hidden rhythm. So the simile there is like dancers. The path was like a twisting snake being suffocated by the dense undergrowth. Dense there means thick, so lots of it. The gold coins sparkled like 1,000 diamonds. The temple stood like an impenetrable fortress on the horizon. Impenetrable, by the way, means that you cannot get in, you can't get through the gates. The mountain stood like a giant before us. So stop the video now, write those sentences in, and then next to each sentence, write down what it suggests. Off you go. Okay, so we've looked at similes. Let's now have a look at metaphor. What is a metaphor? A metaphor is when the writer compares something to something else that it is not, like a simile, but it actually says it is that thing, or it was that thing. So it doesn't use the word like or as, like simile does. It just says something is something else, or something was something else. For example, linking it to the previous simile example, she was a cat leaping gracefully over the stream. So very similar to simile, but it actually says that it is or was that thing. So again, the comparison is made, but it's got a slightly different feel to it than saying like or as. Let's have a look at some other examples of metaphors. See if you can work out, again, the additional knowledge that is being suggested through the use of the following metaphors. Write the metaphors into your book, and then write what it suggests about the noun that it is describing. I'll read them out to you. The arrow was a bolt of lightning looking for its victim. The river was a carpet of brown spreading out before our feet. The moon was a lonely eye watching the scene below. The clouds were giant galleons, which means ships, sailing across the sea of sky. The leaves were a tornado whirling about our heads. The temple was a warrior guarding its master. I'll give you an example using number one. So if I was doing number one, I would write out the arrow was a bolt of lightning looking for its victim. Next to it, I'd have to think, well, what does that suggest by using a bolt of lightning? It suggests that the arrow was very fast and possibly like a direct hit. So I would put in brackets very fast and having a very direct hit, like a bolt of lightning would. So just put that in brackets as your explanation of the extra additional knowledge that's being suggested through the use of that metaphor. Stop the video now, off you go. Let's now look at personification. The clue is in the word, really. Can you see the word person in the word personification? So yes, personification is when the writer gives human characteristics or human qualities or actions to an object that is not living. So to an object that is not human. So it gives them human qualities, using words that are to do with being a human. For example, the waterfall wept endlessly its tears of joy. So does a waterfall weep and cry? No. We know that a waterfall, the object, is not human and it does not cry. However, using this personification creates an image in the reader's mind of great emotion that a human being would have. So it helps the reader really feel the image of the waterfall. So it really adds another dimension to it, as if it were a human. Obviously, you have to be careful with the personification that you choose, and it has to link to the object that is being described and the feeling that you want to get across. Let's have a look at some other examples of personification. See if you can work out again the additional knowledge or feeling that is being suggested through the use of the following personifications. In a moment, stop the video and write the personifications into your book, and then write what you think it suggests about the noun that it is describing. Put this in brackets after the sentence. I'll read them out to you. The rain cried endlessly down. What does that suggest, that the rain cried? It suggests the image of teardrops falling down. Maybe it was falling down a window. What else does it tell us? I don't know, sadness, I suppose. It adds a feeling of sadness. So maybe I'd put that in brackets too. So, number 2, the harsh mountains laughed cruelly at my efforts to climb them. So in brackets afterwards, think about what that suggests about what the mountains were like, that they laughed cruelly. I've added an adverb after it as well to add to the verb and the description, to the personification. The demanding sand clung to our skins, thirstily sucking the moisture dry. The sun stole the moisture greedily from our parched lips. The fire danced joyously in and out of the shadows of the night. So the personifications there are created through, can you spot which word class creates the personification? The rain cried. It's the verb, isn't it? So in number 1, it's by using the verb cried. I've added an adverb as well as to how it cried, and that adds to the personification. But the actual personification is through the verb. So the rain cried, the harsh mountains laughed, the demanding sand clung to our skin, the sun stole the moisture, and the fire danced. As you can tell, those objects don't actually have those human qualities because they are objects. So giving them that personification adds an element of a different additional knowledge that is being suggested. See if you can work out what you think it is for each one and add it in brackets afterwards. Off you go, stop the video now. Layering your figurative speech. As we saw with our grammar workshop video on adverbials, Personification, simile, and metaphor can also be layered within a sentence so that more and more are added. I've done some examples where I've mixed the types of figurative speech. See if you can spot which are which. So sometimes you can layer different figures of speech within a sentence. For example, the sun licked at our sweat. It was a cat at the cream. So look at both halves of that sentence, both clauses. We have the sun licked at our sweat. So, is it a simile? Is it using like or as? No. Is it a metaphor saying it is something else? No. It licked at our sweat. Does the sun lick? No. It's an object. So it's personification. And the second part of the sentence, it was a cat at the cream, the second clause within that sentence, it was a cat at the cream. Can you spot which one that is? Is it a simile? Is it using like or as? No. Is it saying it was something else or it is something else? Yes, it is. Did you spot it? It's a metaphor. Okay, now it's your turn. Oh, no, that's personification, and that is the metaphor. So let's have a look at some other examples of layering figurative speech or figurative language. Write these layered figurative language examples into your book and see if you can identify what types are within each sentence. There are 2 within each sentence. I'll read them out to you. Number 1, the fire was a genie calling me into the flames. So you have to look at the first clause within that sentence, the fire was a genie, and decide after it, straight after that part of the sentence, that first clause, whether you think that is a simile, a metaphor, or a personification. The second half of the sentence, the second clause in that sentence, calling me into the flames, you then have to decide whether that is simile or metaphor or personification. So write each sentence, and after each main clause within the sentence or subordinate clause within the sentence, it might be either, you need to put a bracket and decide which one it is. Don't forget you're choosing from 3, simile, metaphor, or personification. Look out for one tricky example where it's the same one repeated twice. Okay, stop the video now, write those sentences into your book and decide which type of figurative language they are. Off you go. Now let's have a look at the answers. Okay, number 1, the fire was a genie. That's a metaphor, isn't it? Because it's saying it was. Calling me into the flames? Well, a fire doesn't call. It's a person that calls, not a fire. So it's personification. Number 2, the leaves stroked our skin as they fell gently like confetti at a wedding. The leaves stroked our skin. That's personification, isn't it? Because leaves don't stroke, people do. As they fell gently like confetti at a wedding. It uses the word like, so that's a simile. Did you spot it? The rain fell like a tragedy. Like, it's a simile. Crying and weeping as the weather laughed at our fear. Does rain cry, weep and laugh? No, so it's personification. Our exhaustion was a show. Well, that's a metaphor, isn't it? Because it's saying it was. It was a pantomime without laughter. So that's another metaphor, saying something was something else. The temple mocked us. Do temples mock, make fun of, or is that a human thing? That's a personification, isn't it? Like a cruel joker behind its back. Did you spot it? That's right, that's a simile because it uses the comparison and the word like. Okay, that's the end of our video on figures of speech or figurative language. They're called both. I hope you enjoyed the figurative language video today and PowerPoint. I hope you now have a very clear understanding of simile and metaphor. And what was the last one? Can you remember? Personification. All right, I hope you enjoyed it today. I enjoyed teaching it and I am missing you all. I hope you're getting on all right at home and in school, wherever you happen to be. And goodbye for now. See you soon.